You know, there's something to be said about fan loyalty. It's not something you can buy. You cannot buy fan loyalty. It happens over time. People love something, and eventually they start to follow it, and it becomes something that's nostalgic for them. They can look back at it and go, you know what? I love these times. It gives me a sense of euphoria, and I can jump back into that at any point and love it all over again. It's what a lot of properties in today's world get the benefit of. But there's, you know, in the era of streaming, there's nothing more annoying, in my opinion, than as a fan of something, not being able to go one place and be nostalgic in that one place. There's nothing more annoying to me than having to hunt down and scour a dozen different streaming services, go online, look on YouTube, look everywhere I can to find out where these things are, when the owners of that IP, which would be Warner Brothers Discovery, have their own streaming app. And instead of keeping that content there, which is something that they promised when they took over, that they were going to be the home of fandoms. And they lied about that, by the way. But there's nothing more stressful and annoying and aggravating to me as a fan of these properties than to have to go on these Easter egg hunts anytime I want to watch something. So Teen Titans, as of the time of watching this video, is no longer streaming on Max. Apparently it's now only available to stream on Prime Video. Otherwise, good luck if you have some physical media laying around, which, by the way, I'm becoming a much bigger advocate of physical media, especially coming into 2025, because I feel like it's important to hold on to stuff. I know a lot of outlets don't want to put out physical media because they think that's what keeps you coming back to their streaming services. But when you have liars like David Zaslav and the board of directors at HBO Max telling you that, come over here, we enjoy fandoms, we appreciate you, we like your loyalty, come over here and watch all the stuff you love, and they just keep taking it and removing it. And this is one in a long list of things that have been removed from HBO Max over the last couple years. Not just cartoons, massive popular IPs that have been nickel and dime to other places because they're trying to get as much money as they can possibly get. And the crazy thing about this is, as someone who reviewed the CW shows, I can tell you for a fact, you look back at those deals with like Flash and Arrow, where they had billion-dollar deals on Netflix because the CW was putting out TV shows that could go into syndication and be sold aftermarket to other places. They got rid of that because they thought, we're going to have our own streaming services where everybody's going to come to watch all the things that we have. We don't need the CW anymore. We don't need to put out these shows and get them to syndication and sell them off to Netflix, which, by the way, there was a golden era of Netflix where everything that we loved was on Netflix. That doesn't exist anymore. I still really like Netflix. I think it's still the most watched paid streaming service there is. I think YouTube is the #1 video service in the world, but like in terms of streaming stuff. But I think paid stream services, I think Netflix is still #1. I may be wrong on that, but I think it is. I miss that golden era where everything would just go to Netflix and we as consumers benefited from that. And then cord cutting came along and then everybody wanted to have their streaming services. I was one of the people that said the bubble is going to burst. The streaming services are going to go under and we're going to see them fighting over just a small percentage of the world. And that is what we're seeing now. We're seeing Warner Brothers Discovery struggle to make ends meet with Max. And so they're selling off and nickel and diming everything they can to try and stay afloat. When they had shows like Flash and Arrow, these billion-dollar shows they could sell off to Netflix. Did away with that because they wanted their own streaming service. And now look at where we are. We're getting rid of some of the most popular IPs, which, by the way, Titans is supposed to be a movie they're working on. Nothing says we have faith in Titans as a movie by selling off all the cartoons. Also, I want to point this out. It's not the only one. Apparently, the Green Lantern animated series and Teen Titans Go are also leaving HBO Max. There's other ones here. Ed, Edd and Eddy, The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, Aquaman, Static Shock, The Looney Tunes Show. There's a ton of them leaving. This doesn't look good for Max. It doesn't look good for Warner Brothers Discovery. We know they're going through some separation anxiety going into 2025. I'm very concerned because at a certain point, this stopgap, this Band-Aid of selling off older properties, it's going to stop working. What's the next thing they have of value once that stops working? The IPs themselves. The actual properties themselves. We could see a similar situation with Marvel where they, in the 90s, had to sell off bits and pieces of their comic book characters to stay afloat, and now they live in this era of perpetual arguing about intellectual rights to live action versions of characters. We can see that happen here. What's going to happen with James Gunn's universe? What happens if they start selling off bits and pieces of DC? They're like, Batman is super popular. We're going to sell Batman's live action rights to Amazon. So now Amazon has Batman. And oh wait, Flash is really good. And the CW show was pretty solid. Netflix wants to continue the CW show. So we're going to sell the live action Flash rights to the CW so they can continue that show. To Netflix, so they can continue that show. So now Netflix has Flash, Amazon has Batman, and then that just continues to unravel. I don't want to say the sky is falling, but it doesn't look good when you're watching them sort of, again, offload some of these older properties, trying to stay afloat financially. That's not good. And as a fan, as part of the fandom, I don't want to have to think about this. I don't want to have to worry about going to different sites and different streaming services to watch all of the stuff for DC. It's infuriating, honestly. And we're only going to see more and more of this. I'm very concerned about the longevity of anything connected to Max. At this point, we're going back to a situation where all of the Warner Brothers stuff is just kind of dished out everywhere. Is this David Zaslav trying to come up with a way to hold on to some funds? We know he sold off a bit of his stock in Warner Brothers Discovery in December. And it's been a few years since he had the company, and they still haven't really set themselves aside from all of this debt they have. So is he going to jump ship? Is that what's happening here? Is he trying to set the course for getting rid of things in Warner Brothers so he can jump ship? I don't know. I don't have all the answers. But from a consumer, from a fan, from the outside perspective, this doesn't look good. It's aggravating, it's annoying, and it is just a peek into what's to come for Warner Brothers Discovery, and quite possibly many other streaming services. I think Netflix is still good, but a lot of the other ones need to look out. Amazon's probably also in a good spot because it's connected to that company with all the money coming in through the Prime subscriptions, but all of the other ones, maybe your days are numbered. Maybe you have to start looking to start diversifying funds at this point. Let me know your thoughts about this in the comments below.